Figured I would make a video today as a response to a guy named Max who had left a comment on one of my previous videos. He was asking about, I guess you could say, the nature of addiction and how I got clean, I guess you could say. And this video, I'll go ahead and admit, you know, it's kind of redundant. I have talked about some of these things before in previous videos, but I figured I would make him a video reply. And also, I ain't about wasting anyone's time. If you've never had any of these problems, drug problems or anything, you know, I'd say go ahead and, you know, carry on. You don't watch the rest of this because, like I said, I'm not about wasting your time. And if you are smart enough and intelligent enough to avoid such things, you know, like I said, I'm not about wasting your time. But let me walk down here in the holler. We've actually got some water flowing down the dry stream bed at the moment. Usually this is dry and there's no water running down it, but since we've got some snow, I hope it keeps coming, but I'm sure it won't. I think it's about to end, unfortunately. So, like I said, I figured I would talk a little bit about this sort of thing. You know, I've always had, I guess you could say, an addictive personality. Even when I was a kid, even when I was a child growing up. If I enjoyed something, if I liked doing it, I would pursue it fully. You see, when I was in elementary school, junior high and high school, I played baseball and football. I was pretty good at baseball. Quite good, to be honest. Left-handed. I pitched. This picture here is from a local newspaper, one of the pictures. It was my life, you could say, back when I was in high school, playing sports and such. I went off to college. I actually got a couple of letters about playing baseball from a couple of small private colleges up there in Northeast Tennessee where I'm from, but I never bothered sending them any video footage of me playing. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself because our school, the high school that I went to, we weren't very good at baseball. We were pretty rough, to be honest. But when I went to college, I found other interests, I guess you could say. My 3 or 4 biggest interests when I was in college was lifting weights, making enough money to afford my lifestyle, chasing women, and drinking, smoking weed, partying, all that stuff. I finished college back in 2011, got a degree that I will never use, a degree in finance of all things. Never going to use it. And then, you know, things escalated. Started getting into prescription painkillers a lot more often. I've talked about this before in some videos. You know, this is all by design. The flooding of rural Appalachian areas with opiates, opioids, also methamphetamine, all these drugs, you know, it's all by design. And I was into pain pills there for a few years. I managed to kick that habit back in, I guess, 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. You know, I never have been to a rehab facility. I've never attended any Narcotics Anonymous meetings, to be honest. You know, the nearest place that would have had any of those meetings was 45 minutes from the little village that I grew up in and lived in. Didn't have time to drive to those things. Never went to rehab because my family didn't have the money to, and I wouldn't have even went to rehab anyway if they had offered. You see, I tried to hide these problems from my family until couldn't hide them anymore. And then in 2016, I discovered crystal meth. And that was a real train wreck, you could say, in its own form. And I'm not going to get into that any further in this video. I'm going to try to keep this shorter if I can. But it was extremely destructive, unlike anything I'd ever seen before, experienced before. And late in 2018, Miranda, she miraculously stayed with me through all these years. I don't know how she tolerated me. I don't know in the least. I was a shitty person during this time, in and out of jail. And you know, I have no one, that's another thing, you know, you gotta have some self-accountability. You know, I blame the pharmaceutical companies, the powers that be, the elites, for pumping this area full of these drugs, but we do have to be a bit self-accountable here. You know, I have no one to blame but myself for these problems. You know, our enemies, they'll present us with poisons, a lot of different types of poisons. I'm not talking about just narcotics, but prescription drugs that are legal. I mean, hell, just a lot of the media that we consume is poison. They poison the food, you know, I mean, it's just everywhere. But as far as drugs go, we have, you know, we are to blame for ourselves, for our own actions. Nobody put me up to that. I made the choice to get into it, and I dealt with it. But in late in 2018, Miranda got her job down here, and we moved down here to southeast Tennessee, about 3.5, 4 hours away. And I have to admit, when this happened, I did not want to move. My little town, village, you could call it, that's all I knew. And I felt horribly out of place for probably about 6, 7 months down here. I didn't have a job. I was stuck in an apartment most of the time. And, you know, I had a lot of time to think, you could say, about things. Which, looking back on it, I needed that, you know. I managed to get clean, though. You know, I had to get away from it. I know of some guys back home who are into the same things, who are friends of mine, and they have managed to get clean. You know, it's very positive. And the route that they took is, you know, I think, you know, I've got my problems with Christianity and stuff, but my friends, 2 of them that I'm thinking of back home, they were able to get clean without leaving. And they did it through Christianity, through religion, through belief in a higher power. You know, I'm not a Christian, but I certainly do believe in, you know, there is a divine purpose to things, and that there is a higher power. So I admire them greatly, because myself, like I said, I had to leave in order to get clean, and I am thoroughly convinced that if I hadn't have left, I would very likely be imprisoned right now, or even dead. One of those two. Nothing good was going to come from me staying there. Now, of course, I do go back home and visit. My family's all there. Her family's all there. You know. But I'm extremely lucky, you know, that I had the chance to get away from it. You know, that she just didn't leave my ass up there. Like, given how I was, she would have been right to do so, to left me there. Anyway, where was I? You know, and I'm not necessarily denigrating against rehab facilities. Like I said, my family wouldn't have had enough money to send me to such a thing. And I wouldn't have wanted to go anyway, because I've always been of the opinion that a rehab facility is good for, it's good for getting a person clean. You know, I guess they're not allowed any drugs or anything in there, and you know, they have to go to meetings and do this or that. They're good for getting a person clean, but they are not good for keeping a person clean. Because, you know, if a person's released from their rehab program, they go back often, I would say 90% of the time, they go back to the same situations they were in. And, you know, unless they have some strong conviction of perhaps a religious conviction, such as my friends that I just mentioned back home, you know, they fall into the same cycle, the same vicious cycle. That's why I'm not particularly fond of, you know, rehab, although I guess it has a purpose. You know, I've never been there and could be wrong about some of these things. Getting clean, though, isn't really that hard if you're taken out of the situation, which I guess that's what rehab is good for. But staying clean, that's what you need. And you know, I'm away from it. I'm sure if I just wanted to, I mean, I can look at people, you know, strangers down here that I meet in passing. I see them at the store, see them at the gas station. I can tell when a person is, you know, into that sort of thing. It's not very hard to do. But I'm sure, you know, if I wanted to, I could just go, be like, hey, I got some money here, what you got? I don't want to do that, though. You know, the urge for it, and it's like my Christian friends back home, you know, their urge has been supplanted by something greater. And what has kept me clean, I've mentioned this before, it's all about, really, love and hate. You know, you gotta love yourself. You gotta love your family. You know, if you don't have any bit of self-confidence or self-respect, you're not really gonna get far in life. Back when I was into drugs, I didn't have a lot of self-love or self-respect, to be honest. You know, I looked bad. Whenever I first got into meth, all them back in 2016, I lost a lot of weight very quickly. I got down to 122 pounds back in June of 2016. I lost about 28, 30 pounds just in a period of like 2 months. I looked terrible. So yeah, I didn't have a lot of self-respect, self-love. And you know, like I said, when I first moved down here, I was at a loss with what to do with myself. Didn't know anybody. I still don't know a lot of people down here, you know. I don't go out of my way trying to meet strangers or anything. But, you know, I didn't know what to do with myself, but I started researching things and looking into things. And you know, love of self, love of your family, love of your kin, love of your race, that keeps me in line, you know, keeps me motivated, I guess you could say. And I mean, learning a lot of the things, I mean, seeing firsthand a lot of the disastrous things that drug addiction has done to just this area, all along East Tennessee, West North Carolina, all through Appalachia, and I mean, it's everywhere else too. It's not just here, but it seems like it's, I mean, that tiny village that I'm from, you'd be amazed at just how many drugs is up there. I mean, just, it's crazy, really. It's so destructive, and it's so sad to see. You know, I have a lot of sympathy for a lot of the people that I used to run around with. I don't think I'm better than them in any fucking way. I was just lucky to get away from it and to regain a sense of myself. You know, I feel extreme sorrow for them, and I'm not better than them in any way. I was just lucky. And I have sympathy for people going through these things, absolutely. But we do have to bear in mind too that, and this is something I had to do, I had to make the choice to get clean. A person, you can't help a person who's unwilling to help themselves. You can try, and you may have some success, but unless they are willing to help themselves, it's going to be very tough, you know. Now, going back to what I said about love and hate, you know what really keeps me clean? Is hatred. Love and hate. But hate has a huge part. It seems like, I guess a lot of people discount hatred. You know, they'd call me hateful for a lot of the things that I say on this channel, and maybe they're right. Hatred for the powers that be, the elites, pharmaceutical companies, all of our enemies, hatred for them has kept me clean. Because, like I said, I've seen firsthand all the destruction that this shit has wrought upon our people. I've seen all the families torn apart. I've seen children being raised by their grandparents because their parents are off in prison, or they're just too fucking sorry to damn even be involved in their kid's life. I've seen it firsthand. And that's how they want us to be. The powers that be want us dumbed down, docile, and complacent, and fucked up, for lack of a better word. They want a lot of us fucked up, and, you know, it's all just a vicious cycle. You know, I think of that show Breaking Bad. Yeah, that show's, you know, it's degenerate. I do like that show, and I think it's pretty much on the money from my own personal experiences with the drug trade. You know, it captures how it works quite well. Although there is one little hair in the soup. I think, you know, the government, the DEA probably, even local law enforcement, you know, they're involved in this. At least some of them are. You know, I mean, CIA, all these intelligence agencies, you know, they're involved in all this shit. We've seen what happened back in the 80s with the Iran-Contra ordeal. You know, they have a hand. Maybe not all the cops, maybe not all the agents, but there's some of them that have a fucking hand in peddling this shit to our people. Honestly, I just want to see total destruction of this system. And hate, you shouldn't discount hatred, because hate keeps me clean. Hate keeps me straight. It keeps me on the straight and narrow. And I'm never going back to how I used to be. And is there anything else? Yeah, I don't want to, like I said, this is video, I've talked about some of this stuff before. I just wanted to make a quick video reply and show you guys the wonderful bit of snow we're having. I'm pretty excited about it. I hope it sticks around, but oh well. But anyway, Max, I just wanted to try to answer your questions with this video. And thank you all for watching. Bye-bye.